Alright, so now let's take a look at the app.py file, and you can see that I have all these import statements to get Flask and the Google OAuth and all those things, and then the you have to initialize the Flask app as usual, and then what you have is just two actually there's just one method, and it has both a get and a post, which is for the the slash, which is just the path without anything at the end. And you can see that I've created this function called hello world. I should have probably named it a little bit better, but anyway. So you can see that when you get the method of if you get a get request to this method, right, what I do at that point is, first thing I do the authorization over here. So this is the code where you choose the scope, and for the scope you have to make sure that you use the googleapis.com/auth/cloud platform, and then the credentials key path is the path to this client-key.json. And by the way you get this is you go to your Google Cloud project corresponding to the CX bot, and then you have to create a new service account, and then for that service account you have to make sure that it has the appropriate roles. And you can see that on my website I have an article which talks about that. And then you will have to download the JSON key corresponding to the service account that you created, and here I'm going to call that client-key.json, and I just put it right into the same folder where the app.py is located. So you can see that I have this as the key path, and then there is this code which uses the Google's OAuth library to do the service account.credentials.from service account file. What this is doing is it's generating the credentials, and then this is doing it's all the same. This entire code is going to get us an access token that we can use for that particular agent. Okay, so then what I do is I put that into the session, which is I just create a bearer token variable, session variable, and then add that as the token. And this is important because between multiple requests, this is how you maintain the same credentials, and you probably don't want to recreate this credential every single time. Now I have to say that this is quite an oversimplification in one sense, because the token that you get here, it is valid for 60 minutes, a total of 3600 seconds. Okay, and if for some reason the chat continues beyond those 60 minutes, at that point this bearer token would become it would expire, and you will not be able to use this method of preserving it inside the session variable and using it for future requests. But having said that, I would think that that's a somewhat unlikely scenario, and also you can, once you understand this, you can build on top of it and make sure that when you get this credentials object, you also get an expiry date along with it, and you can just check to see if the expiry date has expired, and if it is it is already expired, then you can do a refresh and things like that. You have to do the same thing one more time. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so with that you can also see that I am just setting a session ID. I'm hard coding the session ID value here, and this is an option. You can also make it like return a random variable, I suppose. But then what I do is I do this return render template index.html, and as you know, you have to pass in the dynamic portion of your HTML rendering. You have to pass in as a variable in this format. This is how Jinja will accept it. So then once you do it, as you remember, I had this I just called it with these brackets, and this means that when I pass this information to my index.html page, Jinja will first replace this with the actual value and then generate HTML. So this is the get request. So that is when the page loads, we have to make sure that we get the bearer token, the access token, to make future requests to the Dialogflow agent. and then we also generate a session ID, and then we send it across to the index.html page.